There was some discussion in the second edition Facebook group about fully grown dragons. So let's take a look at how the dragons have evolved throughout the years. House Targaryen was released in the A Flight of Dragons expansion, but the first dragon that was released was actually a promo card that coincided with the release. Promo Rhaegal was an absolute beast who killed all non-dragons that tried to attack or oppose him. And shame on you if you tried to stealth past him. Then he would quickly gain stealth using Dragon's Flight and punish you for trying such foolishness. In the Flight of Dragons release itself was the first full trio of all the dragons. The most notable of these was Drogon, who has a whole deck built around him. You let your opponent go first and then you played out Drogon to kneel all characters. Then Drogon just does what he wants for the turn. Next turn you use Crone of Vaes Dothrak to return Drogon to your hand. Then you repeat the process until you win. In the very next release, the Ice and Fire edition, there were 3 new dragons, this time as 4-cost characters. Once again it was Drogon who was the powerhouse. For 2 gold you could give a character -1 strength and kill them if the strength was 0. Unlike the reprinted version of this card in the first edition core set, there was no limit to his ability. This gave him the nickname Machine Gun Drogon. The next time we saw the dragons was in the Valyrian edition. The theme of this release was characters in their prime, so this time all the dragons gained Cannot Be Killed. In the Winter edition the dragons became doomed and could turn into attachments. They did see some play, but since doomed cards meant that you could lose the game, and attachments were always vulnerable, it meant that it was risky to play them. The Iron Throne edition saw the biggest dragons we had had until that day. They were all very powerful as well, and paying for them was not as hard as it might seem, since income was abundant at the time. You just hoped that they wouldn't get locked in the tower, for example. In the Five Kings edition, the dragons once again was cheaper, and this time they all triggered off of House Targaryen's new keyword Ambush that lets you put characters into play during the challenge phase. If we move over to the first edition of the LCG, the first dragons that were seen were nerfed reprints of the Ice and Fire dragons in the core set. The next dragon that was released was Balerion the Black Dread. As a historical character from an era when dragons were more powerful, he was an even beefier version of the original Drogon. The next dragons to be released were in the Targaryen Deluxe expansion, where another 4-cost trio was released. This time they benefited from attacking together. The final version of the dragons were released in the A Hidden Agenda chapter pack. Once again we saw dragons that couldn't be killed, but this time the ability was granted by one of the other dragons. Well, there you have it, all the fully grown dragons released to this date. It might give you some flavor to what we can expect from future dragons in 2nd edition. Until next time, don't fear the dragon.